The war in Ukraine is a tragedy. It is a conflict born from complex historical grievances, geopolitical ambitions, and a struggle for national identity. In February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, marking a dramatic escalation of the conflict that had been simmering since 2014. The invasion sent shockwaves through the international community, shattering the fragile peace in Europe and ushering in a new era of global uncertainty. This war is not just about territory. It is about fundamental principles of sovereignty, democracy, and the right of a nation to choose its own destiny. Russia's actions have been widely condemned as a violation of international law, and the world has watched in horror as the conflict has unfolded. The human cost of the war has been immense. Thousands of innocent civilians have been killed or injured, and millions have been displaced from their homes. The fighting has also caused widespread destruction of infrastructure, crippling Ukraine's economy and leaving many struggling to survive. As the war enters its second year, the situation remains incredibly volatile and unpredictable. The international community is grappling with how to respond to Russia's aggression, and the outcome of the conflict will have far-reaching consequences for the future of Europe and the world. The geopolitical landscape surrounding the conflict is in constant flux, marked by shifting alliances and diplomatic maneuvering. Recent developments have underscored the complexity of the situation and the challenges of finding a peaceful resolution. One of the most significant shifts has been the United States' decision to temporarily halt intelligence sharing with Ukraine. This move has raised concerns in Kyiv and among its allies, signaling a potential change in the level of American support for the war effort. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts to broker a ceasefire have faltered. Russia has rejected proposed concessions from the US, Europe, and Ukraine, insisting on retaining control over annexed territories. Moscow's refusal to engage in meaningful negotiations has deepened the impasse and fueled pessimism about a near-term resolution. Despite these setbacks, European nations continue to provide crucial aid to Ukraine. France maintains intelligence sharing, and the Netherlands has pledged substantial financial support. The UK's recent agreement to supply strike drones further bolsters Ukraine's military capabilities. The Eastern Front remains the epicenter of the conflict, witnessing relentless fighting and incremental territorial gains by Russian forces. The Donbas region, encompassing the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, has seen some of the most intense clashes. Russian forces have made advances near key towns like Kurakov, Vozdvizenka, and Chasiv Yar, gradually expanding their control over settlements south of Pokrovsk and west of Kurakov. They have also captured settlements in the strategically important Lyman direction. However, Ukrainian forces have demonstrated resilience, conducting successful counter-offensives and slowing the Russian advance. They have made notable gains in the Pokrovsk direction, highlighting the fluid nature of the battlefield. The city of Kostiantynivka has become a focal point of Russian aggression, enduring relentless bombardment from guided aerial bombs, FPV drones, and missiles. The escalation of attacks suggests a Russian strategy of probing Ukrainian defenses in preparation for a larger offensive. In southern Ukraine, the Zaporizhzhia Oblast remains a point of contention, with both sides locked in a precarious stalemate. Russian forces have continued offensive operations in the western part of the region, but their progress has been limited. The presence of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, Europe's largest, adds a dangerous dimension to the conflict in the south. The plant has been under Russian control since the early days of the invasion, and concerns about its safety remain high. Any accident or deliberate attack on the facility could have catastrophic consequences, extending far beyond Ukraine's borders. Despite the lack of significant territorial changes in the south, the situation remains tense. Both sides are heavily fortified, and sporadic clashes erupt along the front lines. The risk of escalation remains ever present, with the potential for renewed offensives by either side. Section 5. The skies above. Missile strikes and drone warfare. Beyond the ground war, the skies above Ukraine have become a battleground for missile strikes and drone warfare. Russia continues to launch long-range missiles and drones at targets across Ukraine, terrorizing the civilian population and inflicting widespread damage. Recent weeks have seen a surge in attacks, with Akled recording 20 Russian long-range missile and drone strikes, including those targeting the capital city of Kyiv. Ukrainian air defenses have been effective in intercepting a significant number of these attacks, but some inevitably get through. These strikes have had devastating consequences for civilians. A Russian ballistic missile attack on a hotel in Kryvyi Rih killed 4 people and injured 30 others. In Mykolaiv, a drone strike on a thermal power plant left 100,000 people without heating during the harsh winter months. Hospitals, schools, and residential areas have also been hit, highlighting the indiscriminate nature of these attacks. Section 6. Inside Russia, mobilization whispers and technological strides. While the fighting rages on in Ukraine, developments inside Russia provide insights into the Kremlin's strategic thinking and the potential trajectory of the conflict. Discussions about the potential second wave of mobilization have surfaced, suggesting that Russia may be preparing for a protracted war. Ramzan Kadyrov, the influential leader of Chechnya, has dismissed the need for mobilization, claiming that Russia has enough volunteers. However, other figures like Chechen commander Abdi Alaudinov have argued for a full-scale mobilization to bolster Russia's military strength. These conflicting narratives highlight the internal debates within Russia regarding the war effort. Meanwhile, Russia continues to invest in military technology, seeking to gain an edge on the battlefield. The development of drone satellite integration and plans for serial production of a new data transmission modem underscore Russia's focus on enhancing its drone capabilities. Section 7. The human cost, civilian casualties, and infrastructure damage. The war in Ukraine is not just a geopolitical chess match. It is a human tragedy of immense proportions. The conflict has inflicted unimaginable suffering on the civilian population, with thousands killed, millions displaced, and countless lives forever scarred by the horrors of war. The United Nations estimates that over 8,000 civilians have been killed since the invasion began, but the true number is likely much higher. These figures represent mothers, fathers, children, and grandparents whose lives have been cut short or irrevocably altered by the violence. The war has also had a devastating impact on Ukraine's infrastructure. Hospitals, schools, power plants, and residential buildings have been damaged or destroyed, leaving many without access to basic necessities like healthcare, education, electricity, and clean water. Section 8. International support, a divided world response. The international community's response to the war in Ukraine has been marked by both unity and division. Western nations have largely condemned Russia's actions, imposing sanctions and providing military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. The United States has been a key supporter of Ukraine, providing billions of dollars in military aid, including advanced weapon systems. European countries have also stepped up their support, offering financial assistance, military equipment, and refuge to millions of Ukrainian refugees. However, not all countries have condemned Russia's actions. China, for example, has refrained from criticizing the invasion and has continued to maintain close economic ties with Moscow. This division within the international community has complicated efforts to find a diplomatic solution to the conflict. Section 9. The road ahead, uncertainty, and the specter of protracted war. As the war in Ukraine grinds on, the road ahead remains shrouded in uncertainty. The conflict has reached a stalemate, with neither side able to achieve a decisive victory. Diplomatic efforts have faltered, and the prospects for a negotiated settlement seem dim. The possibility of a protracted war looms large, with potentially devastating consequences for Ukraine, Russia, and the wider world. A prolonged conflict would mean continued suffering for the Ukrainian people, further damage to the country's economy, and the risk of the conflict spiraling out of control. The international community faces a daunting challenge in trying to find a way to end the war and prevent further bloodshed. A peaceful resolution seems distant, but the stakes are too high to give up hope. The world must continue to work towards a diplomatic solution that respects Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity while addressing Russia's legitimate security concerns.